Have you ever wondered why your heartfelt rosary prayers sometimes feel like they're disappearing into spiritual silence, despite your unwavering faith and dedication? You're not alone in this struggle that has plagued countless Catholics throughout history. What if I told you that the very timing of your prayers could be the invisible barrier standing between you and the miraculous graces heaven wants to pour into your life? This isn't about questioning your devotion or the power of the rosary itself. It's about understanding a profound spiritual truth that Padre Pio discovered through his extraordinary mystical experiences. The great mystic and saint understood something that most Catholics never learn. The spiritual realm operates according to divine rhythms and sacred hours that amplify or diminish the effectiveness of our prayers. Just as a farmer knows there are optimal seasons for planting to ensure the richest harvest, Padre Pio taught that there are specific hours when the spiritual soil of our souls becomes most receptive to heaven's graces. When we pray the Rosary, during these divinely appointed times, our prayers don't just reach heaven, they arrive with supernatural power and urgency that can move mountains and transform lives in ways that seem impossible. But here's what troubles many spiritual directors and confessors today. Countless faithful Catholics are unknowingly sabotaging their own spiritual progress by praying at times when the spiritual atmosphere is clouded, or when demonic forces are most active in attempting to block our communication with heaven. Padre Pio witnessed this phenomenon firsthand during his years of intense spiritual warfare, observing how certain hours seemed to invite interference, while others opened direct channels to the Blessed Mother's heart. This isn't superstition or mere tradition. It's a reality rooted in the very structure of how God designed the spiritual world to function. The truth that Padre Pio discovered through decades of mystical prayer and direct revelation will revolutionize how you approach your daily rosary, transforming it from a routine devotion into a powerful weapon of spiritual warfare and a magnet for divine miracles. Before I reveal these sacred hours that can change everything about your prayer life, you need to understand why timing matters so much in the spiritual realm, and how this knowledge has been quietly guarded within the deepest traditions of the Church for centuries. The spiritual world operates according to laws as precise and unchanging as the physical laws that govern our material universe, and Padre Pio spent his entire life studying these divine principles through direct mystical experience. During his famous battles with demons and his extraordinary encounters with angels and saints, he observed that spiritual activity follows distinct patterns throughout each day, creating windows of opportunity when heaven draws closer to earth, and moments when the veil between worlds becomes dangerously thin. These observations weren't theoretical. They were born from real encounters with both celestial and infernal beings, who revealed the hidden mechanics of how prayer travels from earth to heaven. Consider how even Jesus Christ chose specific hours for his most important prayers. He rose before dawn to commune with the Father. He prayed at the 6th hour when the sun reached its zenith, and he entered his passion during the evening hours, when darkness began to fall over Jerusalem. These weren't random choices but deliberate selections based on the spiritual significance that different hours carry in God's eternal plan. Padre Pio recognized that our Blessed Mother, as Queen of Heaven and Earth, has particular hours when she is most present and attentive to the prayers of her children, just as she appeared to the children of Fatima at the same hour each month, demonstrating heaven's respect for sacred timing. The saints throughout history have consistently testified to experiencing their most profound mystical encounters during specific hours that seem to pulse with divine energy. St. John of the Cross wrote about the dark night hours when God works most intimately in souls, while St. Teresa of Avila described how certain times of day opened her heart to extraordinary graces that transformed her entire spiritual life. Padre Pio understood that these weren't coincidences but reflections of how God designed time itself to serve as a vehicle for grace, creating rhythms that either facilitate or hinder our spiritual communion with heaven. What makes this knowledge so crucial for modern Catholics is that we live in an age when spiritual warfare has intensified dramatically, and the enemy uses every possible tactic to disrupt our prayer lives and steal the graces meant for our sanctification. By praying the Rosary during the hours when heaven's gates swing wide open, we align ourselves with God's own design for maximum spiritual fruitfulness, ensuring that every Hail Mary carries the full weight of supernatural power and reaches the Blessed Mother's heart with crystal clarity and unstoppable force. The first and perhaps most powerful hour that Padre Pio discovered for Rosary prayer is the sacred time of dawn. Those precious moments when darkness surrenders to light and the earth awakens to God's daily renewal of creation. This hour carries profound spiritual significance because it mirrors the moment of Christ's resurrection, when death was conquered and eternal life burst forth into our world with triumphant glory. Padre Pio often spoke of how the dawn hour contains within it the entire mystery of redemption, making it a time when our prayers for conversion, healing, and transformation carry exceptional power before the throne of God. During these early, morning hours before the world awakens to its daily distractions and the spiritual atmosphere becomes clouded with human concerns and worldly preoccupations, there exists a pristine clarity that allows our prayers to rise like incense directly to heaven's altar. Padre Pio discovered that demons are weakest during this time, having spent the night hours in their futile attempts to corrupt souls through dreams and temptations, leaving them exhausted and vulnerable to the power of our rosary prayers. The Blessed Mother herself seems to be especially present during dawn, just as she was present at the tomb on Easter morning, ready to carry our petitions directly to her divine Son, with maternal urgency and love. The practical fruits of dawn rosary prayer that Padre Pio witnessed in countless souls include extraordinary protection throughout the day, breakthrough graces for family members who seemed beyond hope, miraculous healings that defied medical explanation, and financial provisions that arrived precisely when needed most. Those who faithfully embraced this dawn practice reported that their entire day unfolded under a mantle of divine protection, with obstacles dissolving, relationships healing, and opportunities appearing as if orchestrated by invisible hands, guided by heaven's loving providence. If you sense that God is calling you to experience the supernatural power of dawn rosary prayer, write in the comments, "I'm ready for heaven's dawn blessing," and subscribe to receive more of these life-changing, spiritual insights that Padre Pio entrusted to those who would carry his mission forward. Don't let another day pass without claiming the extraordinary graces that await you in these sacred morning hours, when heaven touches earth with special tenderness and power. The second sacred hour that Padre Pio identified as extraordinarily powerful for rosary prayer is the noon hour, that pivotal moment when the sun reaches its highest point in the sky and casts the shortest shadows on earth. This timing holds profound mystical significance because it represents the hour when Christ hung upon the cross, offering his life for our salvation while darkness covered the land, despite the sun's presence overhead. Padre Pio understood that this hour carries within it the full intensity of Christ's sacrificial love, making our rosary prayers during this time particularly effective for obtaining graces related to suffering, sacrifice, and the conversion of sinners. Throughout his mystical experiences, Padre Pio observed that the noon hour creates a unique spiritual dynamic where heaven's mercy flows with maximum intensity toward earth, as if the sun's physical zenith triggers a corresponding peak in divine grace availability. During this hour, the Blessed Mother seems to be especially attentive to prayers for her most troubled children, those caught in addiction, those contemplating despair, those trapped in cycles of sin that seem impossible to break. The spiritual warfare prayers of the Rosary carry extraordinary power during this noon hour, capable of binding demonic forces and liberating souls from spiritual bondage that has persisted for years or even decades. Padre Pio documented numerous cases where Catholics who faithfully prayed their rosary at noon witnessed immediate and dramatic changes in seemingly hopeless situations. Prodigal children who had rejected their faith suddenly experienced profound conversions. Marriages on the brink of destruction were miraculously restored, and chronic illnesses that had resisted all medical treatment suddenly disappeared without explanation. The noon-hour rosary seemed to function as a spiritual lightning rod, drawing down heaven's most powerful interventions and channeling them directly into the specific situations and relationships that needed divine transformation most urgently. The reason this noon-hour prayer carries such exceptional power lies in its connection to the moment when Christ's sacrifice reached its completion, when his love for humanity was demonstrated in its fullest expression, and when the gates of heaven were opened wide for all who would accept his gift of salvation. When we unite our rosary prayers to this hour of ultimate love and sacrifice, we tap into the very source of redemptive power that continues to flow from Calvary into our present moment, making the impossible possible and bringing hope to situations that have exhausted all human solutions. The third sacred hour that Padre Pio revealed as supremely powerful for Rosary prayer is the evening hour, those twilight moments when day transitions into night and the world prepares for rest under the protective mantle of divine providence. This hour carries special significance because it mirrors the time when Christ entered his final agony in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he faced the full weight of human sin and chose to embrace the Father's will despite unimaginable spiritual anguish. Padre Pio discovered that evening, Rosary prayers offered during this sacred transition hour carry exceptional power for protection against the forces of darkness that become most active during the night hours. The spiritual dynamics of the evening hour create a unique opportunity for souls to place themselves and their loved ones under the Blessed Mother's protective mantle before the night's spiritual battles begin. Padre Pio observed through his mystical experiences that demons intensify their attacks during darkness, seeking to torment souls through nightmares, insomnia, fear, and despair. But those who faithfully prayed their evening rosary found themselves surrounded by an impenetrable shield of divine protection that frustrated every demonic attempt at interference. The Blessed Mother seems to take special delight in wrapping her children in her protective embrace during this vulnerable transition time, ensuring peaceful rest and restoration for both body and soul. The fruits of evening rosary prayer that Padre Pio witnessed included peaceful sleep even during times of great anxiety, protection from accidents and dangers during night hours, the resolution of family conflicts before bedtime, and the reception of divine guidance through holy dreams and inspirations. Many reported that their evening rosary practice transformed their homes into sanctuaries of peace where arguments ceased, children slept soundly, and a profound sense of God's presence permeated every room throughout the night hours. Perhaps, most remarkably, Padre Pio discovered that evening rosary prayers carry exceptional power for the souls in purgatory, as if the approaching darkness reminds us of their temporary separation from the light of God's presence and motivates heaven to respond with extraordinary mercy. Countless souls have reported receiving visits in dreams from deceased loved ones expressing gratitude for evening rosary prayers that accelerated their purification and brought them closer to the eternal light of heaven's glory. While revealing the 3 sacred hours for maximum rosary effectiveness, Padre Pio also issued stern warnings about specific times when praying the rosary could actually expose souls to spiritual danger rather than protection. Through his extraordinary mystical experiences and direct encounters with demonic forces, he identified certain hours when the spiritual atmosphere becomes so corrupted by evil activity that even sincere prayers can be intercepted, distorted, or used against the one praying. This isn't about God's power being limited, but about the spiritual reality that demons are most active and aggressive during specific hours, making prayer during these times like walking through a spiritual minefield. Without proper protection, the most dangerous hour that Padre Pio identified is the period between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., which occultists and practitioners of dark arts have long recognized as the witching hour, when demonic activity reaches its peak intensity. During this hour, the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds becomes dangerously thin, and evil spirits roam with unusual freedom, seeking to corrupt, torment, and destroy any soul they can influence. Padre Pio witnessed how well-meaning Catholics who prayed during this hour often experienced increased temptations, spiritual oppression, and even physical manifestations of demonic presence, rather than the peace and protection they sought through their devotions. The second dangerous period extends from late evening into the early morning hours, specifically between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., when the spiritual atmosphere becomes saturated with the influence of souls who died in states of mortal sin and continue to radiate spiritual darkness from their eternal separation from God. Padre Pio observed that rosary prayers offered during these hours often attracted the attention of malevolent spirits, who attempt to mimic the voice of the Blessed Mother, or interfere with the prayer experience in ways designed to create confusion, fear, or false spiritual experiences that lead souls away from authentic Catholic devotion. What makes these dangerous hours so spiritually treacherous is that sincere Catholics, unaware of these spiritual dynamics, can unknowingly open themselves to demonic influence while believing they are deepening their relationship with God through prayer. Padre Pio stressed that this knowledge isn't meant to create fear, but to provide wisdom for spiritual warfare, enabling Catholics to maximize the effectiveness of their prayers while avoiding unnecessary exposure to evil influences that seek to undermine their spiritual progress and steal the graces meant for their sanctification. The first pillar of Padre Pio's teaching on sacred timing centers on the principle of spiritual alignment, which requires that our prayer schedule harmonize with heaven's own rhythms of grace distribution throughout each day. Just as the physical body has optimal times for eating, sleeping, and activity based on natural circadian rhythms, the soul has corresponding periods when it is most receptive to divine graces and most capable of effective communion with heaven. Padre Pio discovered through decades of mystical experience that when we align our rosary prayers with these divinely appointed hours, we create a spiritual resonance that amplifies our prayers far beyond what human effort alone could achieve. The second pillar involves the concept of spiritual protection, recognizing that prayer timing serves as both a weapon against evil and a shield against demonic interference in our spiritual lives. Padre Pio learned through countless battles with demons that these evil spirits follow predictable patterns of activity, becoming most aggressive during certain hours, while retreating during others when heaven's light shines with particular intensity. By praying the rosary during the sacred hours he identified, we position ourselves within zones of divine protection, where angelic forces gather to defend those who seek God's face with sincere hearts and proper spiritual wisdom. The third pillar encompasses the multiplication of graces, the supernatural principle by which prayers offered at optimal times produce exponentially greater spiritual fruits than the same prayers offered during neutral or dangerous hours. Padre Pio witnessed this multiplication effect repeatedly, as souls who embrace sacred timing experience breakthrough graces that seem disproportionate to their prayer efforts, receiving healing, conversion of loved ones, financial provision, and spiritual consolations that reflected heaven's generous response to properly timed devotions. This isn't about earning God's favor through technique, but about cooperating with the divine order that God established for maximum spiritual fruitfulness. Understanding and implementing these three pillars transforms the Rosary from a routine devotional practice into a precisely calibrated spiritual instrument capable of accessing heaven's most powerful graces and achieving results that seem miraculous. To those who haven't learned the importance of sacred timing, Padre Pio emphasized that this knowledge comes with the responsibility to use it for the glory of God and the salvation of souls, never for selfish gain or spiritual pride that would nullify the very graces we seek to obtain through our properly timed prayers. Implementing Padre Pio's sacred hour teaching begins with a fundamental shift in how you view your daily rosary practice, transforming it from a flexible devotion that fits around your schedule into a non-negotiable appointment with heaven that takes priority over all other activities. This requires what Padre Pio called holy stubbornness, the spiritual determination to protect your sacred prayer times from the countless distractions and interruptions that will inevitably arise to test your commitment to this transformative practice. Begin by choosing one of the three sacred hours that best fits your current life circumstances, committing to that time with the same seriousness you would bring to a crucial medical appointment or important business meeting. The dawn hour implementation requires retiring earlier the previous evening and preparing everything needed for your rosary prayer before going to sleep, including selecting a quiet location where you won't be disturbed and having your rosary readily accessible. Set your alarm 30 minutes before your chosen dawn prayer time to allow for gentle awakening and brief spiritual preparation, avoiding the rushed or frazzled mental state that diminishes prayer effectiveness. Begin with a simple prayer, asking the Holy Spirit to guide your rosary, explicitly requesting protection from any demonic interference, and inviting the Blessed Mother to be present in a special way during this sacred hour when heaven draws close to earth. For noon hour implementation, schedule your lunch break or work pause around this sacred appointment, treating it as an essential daily commitment that takes precedence over social activities or work pressures that threaten to crowd out your prayer time. Find a quiet space, even if it's just your car or corner of your office, where you can pray without interruption or distraction. The evening hour requires similar preparation, setting aside this time as your spiritual transition from day to night, allowing the Rosary to serve as a bridge that carries you from daily concerns into peaceful rest under divine protection. Track your progress by keeping a simple journal, noting the graces, insights, or unusual occurrences that follow your sacred hour Rosary prayers, documenting how this practice transforms not just your prayer life, but your entire daily experience. Padre Pio emphasized that those who faithfully maintain this practice for at least 30 consecutive days will experience such profound spiritual benefits that they would never consider returning to random or casual prayer timing, having tasted the extraordinary power that flows from cooperation with heaven's own schedule for dispensing grace. The moment you commit to praying your Rosary during Padre Pio's sacred hours, you step into a spiritual adventure that will revolutionize every aspect of your Catholic faith and daily life in ways that will astonish you with their power and beauty. Within the first week of faithful practice, you'll begin noticing subtle but unmistakable signs that heaven has taken special notice of your prayers. Doors opening that were previously closed, relationships improving without explanation, health, concerns resolving more quickly than expected, and a profound sense of divine protection surrounding you throughout each day. These aren't coincidences, but the natural result of aligning your prayer life with God's own design for maximum spiritual fruitfulness and grace distribution. As you continue this practice through the first month, the transformations will intensify and multiply, touching not only your own life but radiating outward to impact family members, friends, and even strangers who come into contact with the supernatural peace and joy that begins emanating from your soul. Padre Pio promised that those who faithfully maintain sacred hour Rosary prayer will become magnets for divine miracles, attracting healings, conversions, and provisions that demonstrate heaven's delight in souls who take prayer timing seriously enough to restructure their lives around these appointments with the divine. Your home will become a sanctuary of peace. Your workplace will feel the influence of your enhanced spiritual power, and your entire sphere of influence will be elevated by the graces flowing through your properly timed devotions. The long-term fruits of this practice extend far beyond personal benefits, positioning you as a powerful intercessor whose prayers carry exceptional weight in heaven's court and whose Rosary becomes a spiritual weapon capable of achieving victories in the ongoing battle between good and evil. Padre Pio witnessed souls who embraced sacred timing become instrumental in the conversion of hardened sinners, the healing of seemingly hopeless medical cases, and the resolution of family conflicts that had persisted for generations. Your faithfulness to these sacred hours will earn you a special place in the Blessed Mother's heart, ensuring that your prayers receive priority attention and your needs are met with maternal tenderness and divine provision. Don't wait for a more convenient time or a less busy season to begin this life-changing practice. The enemy will always provide excuses and obstacles to prevent you from accessing these extraordinary graces that Padre Pio discovered through his mystical experiences. Tonight, before you sleep, choose your sacred hour and commit to beginning tomorrow with the expectation that heaven stands ready to pour unprecedented blessings into your life through the power of properly timed Rosary prayer. Your decision to embrace this teaching will mark the beginning of a new chapter in your spiritual journey, one characterized by supernatural breakthroughs, divine protection, and the joy of experiencing God's love